Hello and welcome to season 3 of the NGO Whisperer Show. My name is Carolyne Opinde. I am the founder of the NGO Whisperer. We are a consulting business that provides technical support to nonprofits so they can successfully impact people's lives. Joining us from Dallas, Texas in the United States of America is Professor Ona C Miller. She is the founder of the Female Civility Initiative. Professor Ona, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here, and I am just grateful for the invitation and to have the conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We will be discussing a very important topic that came out of a conversation we had on Facebook. And the topic is building meaningful and divine connections for your nonprofit. Now, Professor Ona Miller is great at building relationships. In fact, as the founder of the Female Civility Initiative, which actually is an international, intercultural, interracial, and intergenerational initiative for females worldwide, she has brought together women from all walks of life and different ages, and I am so honored to be one of the Female Civility Initiative members. Now, before we go into our topic, let's start with definitions, because you're an educator, and I know educators like to give people definitions of things before we get into the heart of it. What are the attributes of a meaningful and a divine connection?
The attributes I believe that are necessary and foundational for a meaningful and divine connection would be integrity. First and foremost, always integrity. The second one would be transparency, because we need that transparency anytime we're connecting divinely. We need to be transparent about where we are, what we're doing, our expectations, our desires, our initiatives. We need to be transparent about what we know, what we don't know, what we need to know. And then the next thing I would say, number 3, would be vulnerability. We need to become vulnerable in the divine connections. A lot of times we're vulnerable in connections that we don't necessarily need to be in, and we become vulnerable there when we should have walls up. But when it's a divine connection, we need to become vulnerable to one another, to help one another to grow and make the impact that we need to make. And then the next one would be flexibility, where you have to be flexible about things that are happening, especially in a divine connection. You have to be flexible, understanding that as a divine connection, you're not always in control of everything. You might make plans and then all of a sudden those things change, or your vision might expand, or it might grow, or there might be some things, you wake up one morning and be like, aha, after meditation, after prayer, then something comes along and you have to change something. So I would say flexibility. So my 4 would be integrity, transparency, vulnerability, and flexibility.
Those are great, great attributes. And we always wish that anyone we get into a relationship with, whether it's in private or it's a business relationship, that they are actually integrable, they're transparent, they're vulnerable, and lastly, flexible. Now, you have built different organizations, work with different entities, whether it's in the academia, in the nonprofit, as a humanitarian, and also working with government and corporate organizations. And John Maxwell, one of the greatest leaders of our time, says, connectors create an experience everyone enjoys. In your work, especially as you bring women together and girls together from around the world under the Female Civility Initiative, share with us the value of building meaningful and divine connections in this day and age.
The value of building divine connections and meaningful connections is that it helps you grow, it helps you expand, it helps you not only be a teacher, but also a student. It helps you to be enhanced, it helps you advance, it helps you have a better understanding and a better perspective about things. A lot of times we're just so stuck in our own little thought process. We're so stuck in our own little, mentality and mindset. But there is so much out there that we need to learn, and we need to be open to that. And that is the reason why we need these divine connections. What I have found out in my personal divine connections that I have had with all of the women I have learned so much from them. Sometimes it could be a different language. Sometimes it could be, the interpretation of what they're saying and what they are truly meaning. I have found out that some of them are so passionate, even more so in certain areas, in certain countries than other countries. There's so much that we can learn from each other, and because you make it enjoyable because you learn from each other. Sometimes they say that you find out the differences and then you find out what's similar, but I say dig in and find out all of it, and find out the whys of why things are different, and how do you gel those things together? How do you build those bridges together? That's one of the things about female civility. The main thing, one of the points that we are doing in our mission is to build those bridges, tear down those barriers, find those bridges, and how do we connect divinely?
With female civility, you have taken us through a journey, and there's a lot that you are doing across the globe. I remember there was a post you did on social media about the young girls I believe they are in Nigeria, and you are calling them the young Amazons. And you are building relationships with these girls, and you haven't been there before. I don't know if you have been.
No, not to this particular area, no.
And you are building relationships with them. And for a moment, if I didn't know you, I would have thought, wow, they really know you, because you can already see some of those girls beginning to reflect your attributes and the way you carry yourself with grace. And you are imparting this to the girls, to the young girls that you're mentoring. You're imparting this to the Female Civility Initiative, women or movement, those of us who are part of it. And we can already see this when people post their pictures, that we are being civil in the way we are conducting ourselves. And just to go deeper into this conversation, someone might wonder, when we talk about divine connection, they're thinking there's some spirituality involved in that. Would you please go deeper and explain to us, when you say divine connection, what does that mean?
I believe, and I have experienced personally, that it really is a spiritual thing. That's when you're not in control. You're basically saying, okay, I know my assignment. I want to accomplish my assignment. I want to bring forth my dreams and my goals and my vision, which we all know all of those things for me are given to me by God. And so when I do the dreams, when I have those dreams, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how can I make this happen? But the thing is, you don't really make it happen. You just start implementing, and then he gives you the direction. He gives you the guidance. He opens up the doors. I remember having a dream about being able to supply dresses to female orphanages and female academies. And I felt like, for me, I always, as a little girl, loved little dresses, with the bows and the ruffles, and I would love to just twirl. And for me, it did something to my confidence. It did something for my self-esteem. It's like it built me up. And so that's what I wanted to do, especially for young girls who are already dealing with so much in so many different countries. They're in an orphanage, so they're orphanages. Mm-hmm. Then you also have those that are the female academies that all the time, they don't have what they really want and what they really need. And I thought, well, hey, at least they can pick out their dress, you know, and have it tailor-made to them, something special with the bows and everything. And so I actually ran into this lady because she's a part of the global library as well. And so I read on her page about her academy, and I thought, you know what, let me just, I kind of followed her a little while just to see what she was about. And I thought, you know what, let me just reach out to her. And when I reached out to her, her first thing that she said was, "You are God sent." And we immediately connected. The young girls, we connected as well. And then through her, I actually met another lady who is a part of the library now also. And now I'm mentoring her, you know, so that's what I mean by divine connections. When you take that one step, everything else kind of goes into place. Everything else just kind of flows. And I really do believe it is a spiritual thing. You have to be spiritually connected to where you're meditating, to where, you know, you're no longer in yourself and in your own thoughts and your selfishness. This is a place where you are selfless and you really want to make the impact that you are created to make in the earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we are going through this meaningful and divine connections, I just want to remind you that we are speaking to a global educator. We are speaking to a woman, an amazing leader, phenomenal woman who is also a panelist and has been on many panels speaking about female civility around the world. She's doing amazing things that we may not have thought of, because she has been divinely connected to people to do certain things. And that brings us to the next question, which I believe was a divine connection, because it was quite late here in the UK where I was. And I saw this post on the 11th of December this year, a few days ago. And I'm going to read this post, and it said, you wrote, "It seems there's a lack of belief in divine connections. There is a stupendous amount of desperation to provide a fake image by any means necessary. There is a selfish surge of dysfunctional seeking, searching, and sifting, disguised in the form of networking, or at least that's how it's labeled. You are designed for a specific team that specializes in a specific type of strategic execution. Don't be afraid to stand alone or to stand out until you find your right team." That is powerful. It was quite late at night. I saw that message and I read it like 10 times. Sitting on this very desk where I am, this is my own office, and I responded to you, and it has taken us to this show. That's why we are here today, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in this post, and we went on to discuss this further, and I shared my thoughts about, you know, it also comes from the fallacy of someone really not knowing who they are, what they want, and you pointed out something clearly. And I want us to discuss it today, because now more than ever, people are joining all sorts of groups because we're all locked down. We're at home, we're working from home, you're not spending time driving to work. So those extra hours, people are spending it networking. But what you're telling us is, it's great to network, but don't be afraid if it takes just a little bit longer before you find the right team. You don't have to jump onto every bandwagon. Now, share with us, why do people lack their belief in divine connections? Where have we lost this desire for divine connections, and now we're just jumping and hopping all here and there?
I actually believe the root of all of it is somehow we feel like the more we have, the better. They think that quantity is better instead of quality. And that's where we, get off track. We're so busy trying to be a part of everything be connected with everybody, be in every organization, be on every Zoom, make sure we're on every call, make sure we're on every flyer, make sure we are nominating ourselves for every award out there, until we forget about the quality of relationships. I also think that we treat relationships like a business transaction instead of something that we can actually stop long enough to relate to an individual or relate to a group. Or what I found out about networking is many times we meet people only because we want to see how they can benefit us. And so it's like we compare. Okay, what can you give me? Okay, well then if I give you this, then what can we do in return? But it really shouldn't be like that. When it's a divine connection, it's not about what you can give me. The quality of a divine connection is, it's almost like a socket. This is the best way I can explain it. It's like a socket. There is a certain and specific type of plug-in that you can put into that socket. And in every country, everywhere you go for particular things, you can't even use the same plug-in everywhere you go. So it has to be specific. But when you get the right plug and plug it into that socket, it illuminates everything. It gives you that surge. It gives you that power. It gives you, this newness or this brightness that you didn't have before. It gives you an awareness. And that's what a divine connection is all about. It gives you an awareness of what you should already know when it comes to your assignment, when it comes to your level of impact on this earth and how you are to impact others. Divine connections are so important because it is how we are able to relate beyond say the local area. It's how we're able to relate to even others who might not necessarily even understand. How do we pull them in? And I think that's the global part of this, is that sometimes we, like I said earlier, we stay in our own little corner of the earth, and we never venture out to others divinely. And that's how you do it. Sometimes you can't even relate to other people unless it is divinely. And so that's why it's so important. I think that's definitely where we have gotten off. We have just become so desperate to I guess you could say climb the ladder, or to be seen, or to be known as a particular thing, and we turn into something that is fake. It's not even us, and in all honesty, we lose ourselves in the process, and we forget about who we are, and then we end up, because what I've seen is a lot of people even copying someone else's vision, and they'll change it, put their name on it, and say, oh, this is me. And I'm thinking, what a dysfunctional, disfortunate behavior, because there is such a big world, and there is a specific audience, I believe, for you and for me. And those people are at a disadvantage because the real person never shows up to give them what they need and to impact them. So I think that's where we went wrong. I think it's because we're trying so busy to be known and to be seen and to make these business transactions until we're failing to put quality in there. We're searching for quantity, but we forget the quality part.
Go for quality, not for quantity. And when you go for quality, the number of people and the meaningful connections that will come will be sufficient, will be great, will be amazing, and it will be fulfilling. There was another quote that you did, and I love every post that you do on social media. They are always very well thought of. They're not just, look at me, here I am. It's always well thought. I guess that is the educator part of you, educating on social media. This one I like very much. This one was in October, on the 12th of October this year. You did a Facebook post, and you said, and I love this, and it spoke to me. And I was getting to know you then, and I had just joined the Female Civility Initiative with the global libraries, and so I was devouring every post that you're sending out there because it came with a lot of authority, and I loved everything you said because I know as a woman of faith, also you back it up with the Word of God, which I believe drew me to you when my good friend Eva Arisani connected us. And I was like, I love this woman. I really love everything she stands for. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the quote. It says, and I will read it. It says, never feel obligated, forced, or pressed to be on every team with every or any organization. Yes. A good leader and team player is strategic about the team or organization they are affiliated with.
Yes.
Right now, I can tell you, Professor Ona, I have been invited to speak on so many stages. I've been invited to be an advisory board member for so many organizations. And if it were not for my spirituality and the discernment, I would have stretched myself and I wouldn't even have the time to have you on my show today because I would be speaking at an event or attending a board meeting. So this spoke to me so much because at the beginning when we started, Professor Ona, you kind of feel alone when everybody else is joining. And this spoke to me because it said, never feel obligated, pressed, or forced. And sometimes it's peer pressure. Everyone is joining it and they're asking you, I didn't see you there. Are you not part of it?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Please elaborate, because you have brought women from around the world. You have all these different initiatives, different ages, even with the young girls, the Amazons, as you call them. And you are building meaningful connections. Those girls know you. It's not just you send money there and clothes are made. They know you because I saw a Facebook Live where you were speaking to them. So they have a connection with you. Share with us.
Oh, see, I love this part. I really do. Because I have learned in all of my years and experience, when everybody else is going left, I'm going right. And when everybody else is going right, I'm probably going to go left. And I've learned to do that just because when you get up in the mix of things, you lose yourself. And I can give you a perfect example, even with the global library. I have had, Caroline, everybody trying to tell me what I'm supposed to do with all of these 100 and something women. You need to do something with them. You need to, but that's not my vision. My vision is to support, to nurture, to say, I appreciate you, to say that you're a part of a collaboration of other women so that you know that you're not out there alone doing this by yourself. Because sometimes we really do feel alone. And so that's the big thing about that, is that we have to first be leaders of our own call, our own assignment, our own lives. And that's where we mess up sometimes. We neglect everything that we've been given to do. We abandon all of the assignments and the vision that God has given us to do. And when we neglect and abandon what we've done, how can we go and be effective or efficient or impactful in any other group or any other organization? I really do believe that God is holding us responsible first and foremost to lead our own lives and be accountable to ourselves and to Him, and to be responsible to ourselves and to Him before we even start to branch out. Because you can't extend a hand to someone else when you have not taken the time to put substance within your own house. And so that's just my belief. I just believe that we first have to be leaders of our own lives first, and then branch out.
That's so wonderful, because This is so much aligned with what's happening right now with the NGO Whisperer clients. Last week, I had a masterclass with a group that just won the Family Civility Award. And I was requested to partner with this organization, the Family Civility Institute, which you may be very much aware of because it's part of the civility community, and with Dr. Rebecca Harper. And one of the things we were talking about last week on Friday, I shared this with them, not knowing that, all these things are going to come up in this discussion, but I shared this with them and I said, every time you are invited to go and be part of a group, first and foremost, you have to check your goals, your vision and mission, what you are accomplishing. Are you going to bring any value, or are you just looking at warming seats in that room?
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. We waste so much time on things that do not benefit our assignment and our goals and our vision. That's where we get off track and we look back and wonder, okay, for instance, this year is up. And I promise you that if you ask maybe, 50 people, if you do a poll, many of them did not even accomplish what they set out to do at the beginning of the year. And it's because they got involved into everything that had nothing to do with their vision, their goals, their mission, their initiative, their assignment, their purpose. We forget that we have a purpose here on earth. And every morning that we wake up, we should be intentionally implementing our purpose. And that is where we get lost, is because we create these other purposes that really don't have a purpose. We create all of these other things and we start getting involved in that. And then we look around and the very thing that we had, ready to do for that year and implement, that actually is a stepping stool for the next phase of our life. We forgot all about it. And then we look around and we're behind and we're wondering, okay, I should be here by now. Why am I not here? What am I doing? Because you've wasted time. You've wasted energy. You've wasted, many people have wasted economically, financially. They've wasted money. Joining all of these different groups, going to all of this different training, you've wasted so much when you could have taken that and really put it into somewhere that will make an impact. And I have to say, this year, I have turned down more Zooms and more speaking engagements and even some offers to say, hey, can you give into this? This is for this particular. No, I can't give into that because it is not aligned with my purpose. It's not aligned with my vision. It's not aligned with my assignment. And so even your seed has to have a direction. It has to be planted in specific ground in order for it to make the impact that it needs to make. So I truly understand. And because even in previous years, I've wasted a lot of time. And a lot of that comes because you're not sure of who you are. You're not sure of your vision. You have to be sure in this thing and you have to be confident in it. So I totally agree with you that yes, that's very profound for you to mention that, but you are correct. Everything has to be strategic. It has to be strategic because it sets you up for the next step and the next phase and the next journey in your life.
Let's go back to the discussion and help people who may have signed up for so many conferences or so many groups. How can they begin, if someone is watching and they're thinking, Professor Ona, I really joined these 5 groups last week, but after sitting in those meetings, I realized I really don't need them. The one group that I had last year was enough, and that's okay. So how can we help them to get out respectfully?
That's a good question. That is very powerful. How you get out respectfully is be honest. You have to be honest with yourself first and foremost and just say, you know what? This was a mistake for me. This was a decision that I made and I just shouldn't have made it. And it doesn't have to be like this long, drawn out explanation or anything. It just has to be the honest truth that I shouldn't be in this group. And then you respectfully just say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be here. So I'm going to go ahead and get out now before I even waste any more of your time, before I even waste any more of my time. I'm just going to go ahead and get out, and please accept my apology. That's how you get out of it. And then you take some time, some downtime, and just refocus, reevaluate, and then start looking at things that align with your vision, align with your purpose, and align with your assignment. I believe many of us, if we take the time, will realize that we already have everything that we need. We just need to implement, and we just need to walk it out.
I love that. Being honest and letting the people know that you are going to get out. But then when you get out, don't get into another one.
Yes.
Take time.
Yes, absolutely. Take the time to refocus, because it's important to understand why you did it anyway. A lot of times we do it, like we said earlier, out of obligation. A lot of times we do it because we see everybody else doing it. A lot of times we do it because we think we should be doing something. And so we get anxious and want to be in something, doing something. We feel like we need to be moving and shaking, and we see the world doing all of this kind of. But don't be afraid to just sit still and wait for that turn, or wait for your time. I think also, Caroline, as we discuss this, a lot of times we don't like to just get to ourselves and our assignment and implement the things that we need to be implementing. We're lazy. We are lazy. So what we try to do is connect to something else, somebody else that may give us that extra leg or extra pull or extra thing, whatever we want to call it, that we don't have to do. So a lot of times it's because we're just absolutely just lazy, and we try to get into things that will connect us and make us go up the ladder a little faster, make us become noticeable a little quicker, or maybe this particular audience will notice me and just pull me in. And if they pull me in, then I don't have to do the work over here. I can just do it over here, and I can just take, what they have and just go for it. And so a lot of times it's just because we're lazy. It's just because we're passive. It's just because we just don't want to do the legwork for it all. And we don't want to get to ourselves and come to the realization of who we are, our identity, our assignment.
And that takes us to the next question. How can nonprofits, now we've spoken about individuals, and because we work with nonprofits, and nonprofits actually build relationships with other nonprofits or consultants to implement programs wherever they work. How can nonprofit leaders ensure that they are building meaningful and divine connections? Even though, you're working with people, different faiths and all that, if you're a leader, how do you bring this whole aspect of divine connection in the marketplace?
It's just like I had said earlier, integrity, transparency, vulnerability, flexibility. And you have to have that aspect of honesty. When it's very similar to working with even individuals. It's just that it's an organization, and most organizations, are led by a leader who has that, the same characteristics are needed because it flows from the head down. So I would say all of those four things. You've got to make sure that the organization is integral. You can't just be joining with any organization. There are a lot of organizations out there that do not have the right intent. They do not have the right motive. And the last thing you want to be doing is connecting with them. Transparency. Let's be transparent about what you really stand for. What are the organizational goals? What are the organizational strengths and the weaknesses? Because when you start partnering together, you need to know all of that. When you start coming together, I need to know what has happened, in the past. How did you handle it? because it affects everyone in that relationship. And then, of course, you know, vulnerability. When you are partnering with another organization, there has to be a level of vulnerability, because as I stated before, when something happens, it happens to everybody. It happens, you know, to the leaders first, and when it happens to the leaders, it's going to affect those, you know, that are in partnership or in the group or in the organization along with you. And then flexibility, like I said earlier, flexibility is very important, because you have to be flexible when you're building, when you're growing, when you're expanding, when you're enhancing. I think sometimes we're so set in our mindset, and we think that things should happen a certain way. We think it should look a certain way. We think it should happen a certain way. So we have to be flexible, because when you talk about divine connections in organizations and individuals, when you're flexible, it gives God room to move. A lot of times we limit ourselves. You know, we put all of these walls up and blocks up and boxes up, and if it doesn't happen like this, then we can't be a part of it. And if it doesn't, you have to just be flexible and allow him to move. And then, of course, honesty. Honesty is the big thing. And honesty is not, you know, sometimes they say, well, I didn't say anything. That's not honesty, because you're still hiding it. Let's talk about it. You know, no matter how bad, no matter how good, we've got to talk about it. And that's on an individual basis as well as an organizational basis. So those are the things that I would say are very important, because it affects the image and the character of an organization. And it affects your customers. You know, who you're bringing in, who's going to be attracted to what you have, your services. When they see it, image is everything. You know, when they look at you, people say that you can't really tell by looking at a person. Yes, you can. You can tell a whole lot by looking at a person. You know, they also say that you can't tell a lot by a person, you know, by their Facebook. And yes, actually you can. If they're being honest and transparent and real and vulnerable, you can tell a lot by a person by their Facebook posts. So those are the things that I would say are most definitely important when you're trying to, you know, bring together an organization.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor Ona, for this. Lastly, where can people find you?
They can find me online at onacmiller.com, or they can go to the library, the Global Female Library of Authors. They can go there. If they want to just Google my name, it'll give them all of the things that they need to know and find me. So they can find me, or they can go to Facebook and find me.
Thank you so much. We are truly honored to have you today discussing building meaningful and divine connections for your nonprofits. Today, we've learned a lot about how to check out if a relationship that you're trying to build is going to be meaningful and if it is divine. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. As always, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also invite you to follow Professor Ona C Miller on social media. She is on all social media platforms. Follow her and learn from her. And for our female audience, connect with her and learn from the Female Civility Initiative leader, because she works around the world. I know that because I am part of that movement. Ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again next week, it's all about connecting people, raising funds, and impacting lives.